Hello, everyone. My name is Rich Garling, and this is Two Grumpy Old Men, and I'm with.
Tim Bagwell. And
And
today we're
today
talking about
is.
what, Rich? What are we talking about today? I think there's
Oh
something in the
God.
news happening. I don't know.
Yes,
Something over the something
there is
last
as
week.
usual all kinds of stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
God, and
yeah, yeah.
and as we know, there's been this big crisis in Venezuela, and so Tim, why don't you give us some background here? Give us some context. What's going on there?
Well, here's some broad content, and part of that is the I see it is that some parts of Europe after World War II, there was the seeds of a democratic impulse. Latin America has had a seed of democratic impulses throughout Latin America. But it's always been a difficult path. Of course, we could say, aren't they always? Because we are too on a difficult democratic path and challenged here and there historically, often. And so this is another challenge to their democracy. Maduro and Chavez, as his successor, in what's called the Venezuelan Fifth Republic, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, its official name, and named after, of course, Simon Bolivar. We learned about him in grade school. One thing we learned about in grade school was Simon Bolivar, because that was the George Washington of Latin America, and quite a bit different path for him too. Many republics under his belt, but so we have Venezuela, which in the 70s, probably coinciding with the Arab oil embargo after the Yom Kippur War, oil prices went up and Venezuela had a boom with its reserves. So the many reserves that it has, the biggest oil reserves in the world, and but a mismanaged government which somehow couldn't diversify the economy and did not keep the oil business up. Poverty ensued, mass migrations out of the country occurred, and then Maduro and his wife and others there get accused of narco terrorism, and so we have Trump on expansion. So if you want to take it up from there, that's where we're at.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this: what do you think are the most important things people need to understand about this crisis? What is going on there? What do they really need to understand?
I'm going to take the academic approach and theoretical approach this morning, and that's uh, there is and it is going to freak everybody out. There is a Marxist-Leninist model that explains all this. This could be seen as the last days, the last stages of imperialism before revolution, before massive change. Not Venezuela's, but ours. Yeah, because this is purely, colonialism is sort of basically the last stage of imperialism. Now, we have industrialization as part of it, the classical model, and then colonialism is, and then the decline into fascism are the last stages of imperialism, and this can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how the transition is made. And it's a mess right now with this impulse where Venezuela looks like the Trump administration is treating it like it's an asset rather than a colonial asset, rather than a republic that needs help in steering a course that's beneficial to the people of Venezuela. And I don't think us at the side are, threatening, if you don't comply, we're going to do bad shit to you. Is Yeah, it's got Britain squeezy, it's got the Danes squeezy over Greenland. I think he's talking about Greenland now, and it's madness, and the reason that the reason that this model tends to work is that there's usually a period of decline following this colonialism, uh, this mess, the mess of colonialism. That's what it should be called.
Okay,
But
so judging on what you just said, though, it seems like there's a lot of different players and going on in Venezuela right now, and all that. I mean, Trump obviously removed one of them, and so the question there is just how legitimate was what he just did, and it seems that there are people in Congress, there are people around the world who are sitting there going, "Hey, whoa, wait a minute, time out here. What do you think you're doing?" So what do you explain that one?
I'm trying. That's so, and you'll notice that, and of course, they always talk about on YouTube, on the YouTube boomers. We always talk about how the legacy media doesn't cover this stuff, and one of the things that doesn't seem to be covered, or there's analysis out there that needs to be addressed. So they arrested him. He was indicted in 2020 in the Southern District of New York on narco terrorism charges or something like that. I don't know if that's the exact term. And so they've been waiting 5 years to get him, I guess a little bit over four, to get him, and under a, criminal charges, as a criminal, doing bad stuff to us as a criminal. And that's a little bit different than invading because it's a country that's threatening us. We're threatened by this country, so we're going to invade them, or we're going to take over their leaders. Going to take their leaders captive. So, what's the where do the hairs get split?
Let me interject here for a sec. Let me interject here for just
Sure.
a moment, because yeah, we indicted him back in 2020. I mean, the International Court indicted Putin. But the only thing that really does is that, hey, if you show your face in any of the countries that are represented by the International Court, they're supposed to arrest you.
Right.
We don't go in and grab you like Trump just did,
Right.
and so that whole 2020 indictment in New York federal court, and I find it interesting too that we're able to indict a you want to talk about showing the power of a country, okay? Here he's talking about making America great again, and quite honestly, think about it, it's already great. What country in the world? Actually, there is no other country in the entire world that uses our currency. Everybody bases the value of things based on the U.S. dollar. I mean, if that isn't greatness, I don't know what the hell is. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is too is that here we're able to indict a sitting president. Mind you, he may not be the legitimate president, but I don't think it's up to us. It's not up to the United States. Yeah, but here we are. We can indict somebody like that from a foreign country, and that you don't see the opposite happening, to U.S. citizens, to U.S. leaders or anything like that. So if that isn't, great, I don't know if that necessarily makes us great, but we've got the power to be able to do that. So I don't understand where he thinks he's going to make America great again when it's already there.
He's going to make it worse again.
Yeah, yeah, he is. He is. He's destroying what made America great in the first place.
Well, I think
this further does that.
I think this personal aggrandizement approach to things, where the emphasis is on his personal aggrandizement. He realized that, I want the Peace Prize, but I don't have a real war under my belt. So, yeah. Well, he wants both. He wants both symbolically or otherwise, and. Who knows? Maybe he'll invade Sweden and extract the Nobel Peace Prize. But
no, on his way through Greenland, yeah. But okay. So here's a big question for you. Okay, in that, how central is Venezuela's oil industry to all of this?
I think I've seen this out there being re-memed, if you will, and that's the quote from the famous satirist / humorist George Carlin. America is an oil company with an army. And that's a lot of what it looks like, is that we're there for the oil, and we are going to. I just envision, the oil company established by Kushner bidding on, he hasn't done that yet, but I'm just saying.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Look for cronies. Look for cronies. This will piss off the Exxon and Mobil's and all that because, oh, wait, it's the Trump Oil Company.
It's like, wait a minute, I thought we were going in there to do all of this work.
Well, and here's the thing about him, as I crunch my fist in anger, is that he degrades and screws up everything. What makes us think that this is going to work out in any way for either them or us? You know? Yeah.
He's playing to an audience, that nobody seems to, if it's a MAGA types, well, I'm sorry, but they're they're not smart
I
enough to
lost
understand.
or I
He's
lost.
they don't even realize he's being there, that they're being played, but that's okay. Uh, but here's the thing that I found interesting about the oil part of it all. He sits there and he says, "We're going to go in and we're going to get back what's owed us because they stole it from us in the first place." And I'm thinking to myself, how can they have stolen something that was theirs in the first place?
Right.
And the second thing is, he's sitting there going, "Oh, the oil companies are going to put billions of dollars." So here he is committing the oil companies to putting billions of dollars into fixing the infrastructure in Venezuela so that they can pump more oil out of the ground. So let me ask you this. And this is economics 101.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And I know some people are going to be like, economics 101. I thought you guys talked about politics. you know, and, uh, and in economics 101, there's the law of supply and demand. Okay. So if you pump more oil out of Venezuela, that means there's more barrels of oil out of the marketplace. But
Correct.
demand itself hasn't changed. So what happens? Explain that one to me, would you please?
Well, in the model of the model what I just talked about of him screwing up everything, how can you take possession of the world's largest uh, oil reserve and cause the price of gas to go up? Why do I think that he screws things up so royally uh, that this is what will happen? I don't know exactly how it will happen because I'm not the
Oh,
economist. But
no.
supply, but how is it that he will actually cause the price of oil to go up, the price of gas to go up, after seizing the world's largest reserve of oil?
That's that. In that case, there, the simple answer to that one, in my opinion, honestly, and I studied economics when I was in college, and uh, the oil companies don't really want to have to do. They don't pump a lot of oil out of Canada and the United States, which, by the way, have very large deposits of their own. And when we were pumping oil out of the ground here and putting it onto the open market, the price of oil, dropped. Okay, and that so they quit doing that. You know why they quit doing that? Because they were losing money pumping the oil out of the ground. They weren't making enough money, to cover their costs,
Huh?
and that on a barrel of oil. And so they quit doing it so that the price, the inventory, worldwide inventory would drop. Demand continued where it was at. And so what happens? Inventory drops, demand stays there, the price of oil goes up. The price of gasoline at the pump goes up. So what likely will happen in Venezuela is like, oh yeah, great, we got control of it, but we don't want to pump any oil out of the ground because of the fact that we don't make any money doing it. and so that's why the price of gasoline at the pump will probably go up as a result. Because he's sitting there with this, oh,
Yeah, every time he proposes that millions and billions and trillions will be made and we will be enriched, it's never happened.
yeah,
Well, it happens for who? It happens for the billionaires. That's who it happens for. Yeah, yeah. And the oh yeah, 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 yeah. Well, and I wonder what the reaction to if the oil companies in there rebuilding the infrastructure, the petroleum infrastructure of the country, if there's several choices. One would be we will form guerrilla forces and insurgent forces, and we will destroy whatever the companies make. Or okay, go ahead and do that. rebuild our infrastructure, please, because
Yep,
we're going to take it back eventually anyway.
exactly. And we'll have brand new stuff. We won't have to put a dime into it, and we're going to take it back. We're going to take our stuff back from you like we did 5 other times. Now, if you look at the history of Venezuela, and particularly say from 1900 on, and there's been at least 4 or 5 times where things have gone back and forth, and the most recent one was in the 1970s, 1980s, in which they took possession. And the oil companies weren't all complaining about it. They were still buying oil from them. They just didn't have to put any of the work into the infrastructure and shit.
Right,
So,
right, right. Yeah. So
you know,
I think the socialists in Venezuela made the mistake of not diversifying their economy, or the Latin Americans not making a better effort to integrating their economies so that no one becomes a single product economy. This
right.
is a problem with any economy, is that you don't want to be a single product. You need to
Ask,
diversify. Part of
ask
that
Vladimir Putin.
diversification part of that diversification is in forming communities with the other nations around them, and sharing an infrastructure, sharing things so that so people can migrate to where the progress is, and then migrate back, send money back home, that kind of thing. Yeah, so they've made that mistake, and hopefully they'll figure a path out of this. Here's the thing: he likes to do a big show like the Iranian strike, all right, which had no impact, although Iran's in turmoil, and that's as far as
Well,
I'm
they were in
concerned.
turmoil before that.
Yeah, but they're in really bad turmoil right now. Actually, I'm kind of hopeful that maybe the Ayatollahs will be overthrown, and they can get back to.
Yeah, but you let the people do that. You let those people do that,
Sure,
not
sure, 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 sure.
Israel or the United States.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. And it's interesting because Iran has no reason to be an enemy of Israel. It's just, if you think about it, okay, there may be issues with Israel, but here's the deal: is that Israel is simply the boogeyman that they like to hold over the people in Iran.
Right, right.
Right, right. Um, there's yeah, and Persia speaks Persian. They don't speak. Iran speaks Persian. They don't speak Arabic, and they have a different form of Islam. And they, I think, rather not be involved in nuclear
Isn't it
development.
Farsi?
And Farsi, well, yeah, Persian, Farsi, yeah,
Persian,
that's
Farsi,
correct.
Farsi,
Thanks
Persian.
for correcting me
You say
there,
Persian,
buddy.
I say Farsi.
There's a song there somewhere. There's a song there somewhere. Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, because it's another oil country, it's with issues, and I think that you don't take out a country that has a religious leader as the leader, because that pisses off too many. Well, what's the word I'm looking for? Existential feelings, among the people.
Watch it.
You let the
Watch it. You're
people.
using a
You
big word there.
Yeah, like you said, let the people do that, because we can't go around taking out every leader, and we certainly don't want to take out the fanatical religious leaders because they have fanatical followers.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
exactly, exactly.
right. Yeah.
And that,
So
oh my
yeah.
God, oh my God.
So
So,
back to
so here,
Venezuela.
yeah,
But
yep. Back
no,
to
I was
So
just
back to Venezuela. There was another question here I had. Hang on a second. Let me find it. Um, as we know, what was it? Back in 2024, Venezuela held an election. Maduro lost. He knows he lost. Okay, but like Donald Trump, he didn't want to admit to it, and all that, and he refused to turn over power, and everything. And since he had the military's backing, and he had all those gangs out on the streets, which is kind of what Trump's trying to copy,
yeah.
and that the legitimate elected leader, Mercado. Well, no, she was the one who won the Peace Prize,
Yes.
and they refused to let her run. So a guy named Gonzalez um, had to uh, basically had to take her place. Okay, and he and and it's kind of funny too, because to show you how that Maduro and Trump are really the same ilk when you get down to it, because Maduro thought, okay, we're going to have the court make it so that Mercado can't run for office. She's taken off the ballot, and instead the opposing party put Gonzalez in there, and he still wins. Gonzalez still wins. Maduro loses the election. So now the question, and I understand right now, I guess what Trump is sitting there saying that Mercado is she just doesn't have what it takes to lead. And I don't give a shit if she does or not. She was the one who was elected.
Yeah,
really.
In his mind, she's probably a piggy girl.
Yeah, yeah, really, exactly. And he's hoping to be able to make a deal with Rodriguez is her name, who was the vice president under Maduro and is now apparently going to be the president of the country, even though she's demanding Maduro's return.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, your thoughts?
So, I am just, I don't know why this came up in my head as we were talking about this, and that's, what does Maduro have on Trump?
No, he's not Putin. He doesn't have him by the short hairs. You don't? Do he? You think he does?
I'm just speculating.
I know. That's why I'm asking. That's an interesting thought.
In the world of criminal doings, okay, which is what we're talking about.
Yeah. I have a theory about that.
yeah. So, is there somewhere, where Maduro has something on Trump? I don't know, but let's just watch and see what happens with the case. I'm putting Maduro back in power and giving him a pardon because I talked to him. My lawyers talked to him, and he's really a great guy. Like all the other like all the other narco terrorists, I've given pardons to. Go back home and run it in my name.
Here's
our own colonialism, our pardon colonialism.
Yes. Well, here's my theory. Here's my theory of this whole thing. All right. First off, what Trump really wants to do, and I can give you evidence of this in a way. What Trump really wants to do is to control the illegal narcotics market coming out of South America. All right, think about it. Yeah. First thing he did is he sat there and he started blowing the little guy out of the water, so that he didn't have a chance. In other words, get rid of the supply lines. Okay, and all this. Okay. Second thing he decides to do is to pardon the old Honduran president, okay, who we had convicted of drugs, narco terrorism, especially, and that because, like you just said, he's a nice guy. I don't understand. We treated him badly, and all this. So you pardon him, making a deal with him to say, okay, you're going to run your drugs through me. We'll let you go. 10-1 says Maduro. I think you're probably right. But I think ultimately, in the end, what he wants to do is not just control the oil, but he wants to control the illegal drug market because there's billions of dollars about it.
Of course he does, because, the pedophile ring ran its course.
But you notice Maduro, he's going to be giving Maduro he's giving Maduro the due process that he does not give to the illegal immigrants. So why is that? Why is that?
That's a great point. That's the best point of this episode, Rich. That is an outstanding point that you make there. The idea that the illegal immigrants don't get the quality of due process that Maduro is getting, and his wife.
Yes, his wife. Yes. Well, let's not forget his wife. I'm not quite sure how much she had to do with everything, but she apparently did have something to do with it.
Yeah. Probably kept the books. You think he's keeping the books?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. And, the interesting thing, too, with Maduro is that, he started out his working career as a bus driver. Did you know that? He used to be a bus driver, back in the day. And I found that interesting. I was like going, really? But it's a case of where, I'm wondering, we
have trouble. This is a country with a population approximately of Texas. It's about 100,000 square miles larger than Texas, and most of that's jungle. Could be said to be jungle. And
Right.
right, and so basically we're talking a Texas-sized republic, right? Which is
Hmm.
quite a bit different than an American-sized republic, where many more things happening in our system, and so they have this intense, all that wealth that they're sitting on and not exploiting, and then so you have idiosyncratic political parties with opportunities for people like Maduro to rise. I don't exactly know the entire dynamic. A lot of it, I think, goes under the developing country model still, where all kinds of stuff is going down because there's the opportunities for oil and drugs, and everybody wants their piece of the
Right.
pie, and
Right.
Trump can't have that, you know. But uh, there's a model too of a small town model, is what I call it, where small towns that don't grow, that look like they could have grown, but
Hmm.
the rich families thought that the pie wasn't getting bigger. They just wanted their piece of the pie. They didn't do things to make the pie bigger. They would do things that would divvy things up, and because they always thought that the pie was limited instead of a growing pie, a larger and
Hmm.
larger pie.
I
And
used to live in I used to live in a town like that.
yeah, yeah. Well, most of Southern Illinois is like that.
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Really.
Yeah, so uh, so the pie didn't get bigger, and how's this applying to Venezuela again? The or the market, the drug market. Trump, uh, yeah, Trump wants his piece of the pie, but
So,
again, everything he touches, he degrades. You
oh, he
know,
destroys it. And then he leaves everybody else, holding, holding the crap that's left over,
yeah,
because he walks away, because he's able to somehow, you want to talk about the Teflon King. Remember how they used to accuse Bill Clinton of being a Teflon King?
yeah,
I'll tell you something. Bill Clinton doesn't hold anything over Donald Trump.
yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
a guy who just manages to walk away from so much of the crap he develops. But let me ask you
Right.
this. All right.
Of course, everything that's happening also is part of the Epstein cover-up. But go ahead. Hope I
Well,
didn't.
yeah, we know that. We understand the fact that there's a lot of things, the economy, the tariffs, the Epstein thing, the gerrymandering, and all of that sort of stuff. The idea of having your war, it's like when Reagan invaded Grenada, or you say Grenada, and all that.
You
It's
say
a way to
Grenada, I say
distract people.
Grenada.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way to distract people. So here's the
Yeah.
question, though. All right, we only got a few minutes left. So where where do you see this ultimately? What paths can this possibly go now? Obviously it's not going to move necessarily forward, but
Yeah, I'm trying to map a flow chart. The different options, if then else. So you got the uh, Maduro pardoning thing. It's a little bit of a trip to get there, but I don't know. And then you got the walk away, like he did with Iran. He walked away, which was not a bad thing to do with Iran. All right, because someone said you have rolling mountains that you're never going to get past. That's
hmm
not where you want the war. And Venezuela's not where you want the war. So part of it could be he walks away, and just leaves a mess. You know,
yeah,
which is the actually classic American model of its relationship with Latin America.
he
you know,
he might be thinking though too, on that vein, what you were just saying is that, because I know that my neighbor next door to me here, one of their chief reasons for wanting to support Donald Trump was because he wouldn't take us into a war. He would just concentrate on America. All
he would
right. Well,
negotiate.
we see how
He's
we
a
see how
great.
far that's gone. Yeah. Well, he does that. He sits there and he supposedly blew Iran, into oblivion. We see how well that
But not
worked out.
really. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it didn't.
yeah.
you know,
It was a
and
big
all
show.
that. And now and
It was a
now
big show.
Netanyahu's sitting there screaming about how, nuclear weapons in Iran, nuclear weapons in Iran. And it's like, weren't you screaming about that the last time when we supposedly blew them into oblivion
Yeah,
and they wouldn't be
yeah.
able to do anything? See
Right.
how well that worked out. Now we're going to see how well this is going to work out with Venezuela. And now it seems to me he's going to use that as an excuse to invade Greenland. And I'm still waiting for the Danish government to come and kidnap Donald Trump and Ivanka, Ivanka, whatever her name is, and,
Oh,
and,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
take
yeah.
them over to
Ivanka Meyer.
Greenland and try them for narco terrorism or something like that, some made up, trumped up
Well, not even
charge.
a conspiracy. Yeah, the invasion, simply the invasion. They have to wait for the. I don't know what. Well, one last thing too about us, and that's that obviously our concerns about will American military officials, not obey? Will they disobey a,
An
an
illegal
illegal
order.
an illegal order? Now, then that gets back to the: is this a law enforcement thing we did? No, by Trump did, or was it an act of war? Those are two different things, and the act of war gets him in more hot water.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to do the cover, but then again, every case he's brought, almost every case he brings before a court gets shot down. Uh, and I'm curious about what this indictment looks like. They had to have a grand jury do the indictment, uh, you know, tell the judge to indict, and that seems to be what.
Well,
Yeah,
the indictment itself has actually come out. I've seen a copy of it,
yeah, 24 pages.
and I wish them I tell you something. I wish them the best of luck in trying they're going to mess up this one too. They're going to mess up this one too. And
Yes,
by the
as they
way,
always do. As
yes.
they,
And
yeah.
speaking of it, Hegseth. Did you see the latest with Hegseth?
Well, I know he was doing this glorious, the glorious. When you use the word glory in an invasion, you're an imperialist. But go on.
No, he's issued a formal letter of censure for Kelly, Senator Kelly from Arizona, and which becomes part of Kelly's permanent military personnel file. And the letter accuses Kelly of reckless misconduct and seditious statements. It's the first step in a larger disciplinary process.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work. I don't think.
He, uh,
But
Hegseth has had such a hard on for superior officers, of higher rank than him,
yeah,
and all this. And I think it all stems from when he was in the military, and all
right.
that. And he's just never gotten over it, and everything. And he's also, though, apparently wants to demote him in military rank and retirement,
I think
and
the
all
hard
this.
analogy is incorrect. It's an inferiority based on the same thing.
Well, I'm not saying he's not using drugs to get it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, no, I was not aware of the Hegseth letter there. That's fascinating.
Yeah,
I
that
wonder.
came out in the news this morning.
Well, that
Uh,
tells me that there's some military types that are helping him, with his scheming, because that's a rather, I think, somewhat esoteric to us, at least. It's an esoteric move on our military, So that's an inside move, definitely,
oh yeah.
And someone
Well,
helped him. He didn't come up with that. He said, "How can I?" He's got a General he trusts or a JAG he trusts, and he says, "How can I fuck with Kelly?" You know.
yeah. Oh, and you know how he can do it? Not only is he going to try the embarrassment aspect of it by cutting his rank, okay, demoting him basically, for these statements, but in the demotion, it cuts down on the amount of the pension that he gets. So he's going to
Right.
try to hit him economically, and everything. And of course, if I was Kelly, I'd be like going, okay, fine. I'm retired. I don't really care. You can cut down on my pension if you want to, but I'm a U.S. senator, and I will be in there. What? When is he?
You're gone.
This is his first term, isn't it?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so he gets himself reelected, and that I believe, and I'm not quite sure. I think with the U.S. senators, they automatically get a pension. Now, mind you, it's not going to be a huge amount of money, but
It increases as your tenure goes up.
yes,
Uh,
it does. Yes, it does. But Marjorie Taylor Greene was going to run into this, in which she can't collect on her pension. She can take advantage of the U.S. government funded insurance, but it's sort of like, insurance that we had at work, in which, you still got to pay, a certain amount of the premium. So the government basically, it's like an 80-20 kind of deal. You pay 20% and the government pays or your employer pays the other 80%, of the insurance for medical insurance. Well, in the case of Marjorie Taylor Greene, she can get that insurance as long as she pays for her portion of it. But the pension, she don't
Uh-huh.
get that. She doesn't get that until she turns 60 years old.
Uh-huh.
And she ain't close to 60. In fact, I think she's got like another 15 or so years to go before she gets to that point. So the pension is kind of meaningless to her, in that sense. And
So
she won't get that till later.
when I was looking up Kelly, he finished out somebody else's term, and so then he got elected in 2020. He was appointed in 2020, and then or was it first elected? It
2024
was
would have been his.
2020 was when he first took office in the Senate. I'm not sure if that was it may have been an election. Yeah, that was an election to fulfill a term. Then he won another one in 2022. So he's not. This term doesn't end until January 2029.
Okay, so this is 26, and that means he's been in there 6 years already, in essence.
8. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if he got appointed in 2020 and won the special election, and then won re-election, and all that.
So,
that's
it's about 6 years. About 6 years.
Yeah,
full
as long as he's been in there longer than 6 years, he should. He'll probably get a pension out of that, and everything. But yeah, I mean, all of this is so petty. It's so petty, to treat somebody like that, and it's not unusual, for the Republicans to treat military personnel that way. I mean, you look at what they've done to past candidates who are running for office who had military careers, and they did everything they could to degrade those guys.
Swift boating, you remember?
Yeah. And that, but yet, the military people seem to support people like Trump and Hegseth and whoever else wholeheartily, and I've never understood that.
Yeah,
it's never understood that. So, at any rate.
Yeah,
we're over time,
right?
As usual. Everything.
Yes.
So everyone, thank you for watching. And that, remember, if you got any questions, put them in the question and answer section, on YouTube and on Substack and what have you, and we'll be happy to try to answer them as quickly as possible. But in the meantime, this is Two Grumpy Old Men, and I'm Rich Garling.
I'm Tim Bagwell.
And wishing you well.
Bye-bye.